First time I heard the name Black Tuna was the day we were indicted, and I saw it in the newspapers. Then I saw it on the indictment, but I never knew where it came from. I never knew where it came from until we went to the evidence room at DEA headquarters in Miami to inspect the evidence. And when we got to the door, there was a big sign on the door that said, Black Tuna War Room. I didn't know I was in a war. And I began to think maybe it's a little more serious than a little smuggling charge if they think they're at war. We went in, and I'm still wondering where the name Black Tuna came from. It turns out they somehow got a hold of a picture with me and a big tuna that I had caught, and somehow they used that to hang the name on us, Black Tuna Gang. Then they said we used it as a recognition code, Black Tuna calling, and that was news to me. The first thing that makes you a risk taker is opportunity, and certainly not everybody gets the opportunity. Someone came to me when I was out on the fairs working as a pitchman and said that he was working in the wintertime for a smuggler, and that he could get me 1,000 or 1,500 pounds if I could find some place to sell it. So opportunity presents itself, and I knew people in Philly who would have bought it, and my partner knew people who were anxious to buy a lot. And so it was just a perfect opportunity with what seemed to be minimal risk. We were unknown, so the risk of being caught we thought was very low. And we thought the authorities weren't terribly interested in busting pot smokers, pot sellers. The law likes to distinguish and say, oh, no big deal, they smoked a little pot. But somebody who sells pot, and you can't smoke it without having a supply, is painted as a major felon. Do you have any idea how it feels to be at the controls of an old DC-3 coming in between the mountains near Santa Marta, looking at a mountain airstrip where they had to clear the cows away as you drop your wheels, and you see way up at the other end of the strip and a stake truck, open back truck, that's just loaded with bales, and there's a smaller one loaded with fuel drums that's going to pull up under your wings, and you pull up there, and those old radial engines on the DC-3 are just and you're rolling up there, and it's an incredible feeling. It's early in the morning and the sun is shining, and the Andes are just so gorgeous. And you've come in over these picturesque little towns and over this giant lake, La Cienega, which means lake. Your instructions are to fly over a church steeple at 10,000 feet and then drop down till you're at 2,000 feet and follow a stream up to a strip. And there you are, man, you're driving this thing. You're flying it. And sure, the romanticism was fantastic. The idea of being in a foreign country in Latin America, in Colombia, where it was all happening. Yeah, it was exciting, it was interesting. Most of the people I met were really terrific, both buyers and suppliers in South America. They were wealthy people from good families and very hospitable. And I never felt the least bit of danger there, except for when we were kidnapped by the Colombian army on the airstrip.
And what happened that day?
That's in the book. That's in the book. The reason we had been captured, although our mordida had been paid, was these kids were using this airstrip 5, 6, 7 times a day. It was like LaGuardia. Because it was the only strip that wasn't underwater. And if they'd use it 6 times a day, they'd pay the Army for 4 times a day or 3 times. They were keeping the Mordita money. And we just happened to be on the strip at the wrong time, and only because one of the pilots wouldn't take off with an oil leak. But they actually loaded us into a van to take us down into La Cienega and shoot us when our people had told them to forget the 4 million. They were going to make an example. And they actually loaded us into the truck.